The first thing I would like to do is share my screen and have you watch a video, if I may. So you can never get the next 6 minutes of your life back, but I hope you'll enjoy it. And this is the video of what we do as a fundraising group, which I hope you will enjoy watching. So here we go. Knights in White Lycra were formed in 2012 by a bunch of overweight British men who decided to get fit and give back. We decided to start Knights in White Lycra on the back of the earthquake and tsunami that occurred in 2011. We evolved into an organisation that raises funds for children living in institutional care.
We first met Knights in White Lycra really in 2017 before we were even official as an NPO. Whereas previously it was very much focused on the kids. We also expanded that to the staff because we saw them as essential workers. And so we've done a lot of staff training. We've done a lot of reaching out to the staff to improve their situation as well. We continue to be face-to-face with the kids that we can be face-to-face with, but we've also tried to expand our offering throughout the whole country. And then at the same time, we can exponentially reach all 600 homes through online training. And so we're not limited by the new norm, if you will.
So Knights in White Lycra is a charity sporting group. We run many events throughout the year, but I think the one that most people know us for is our 500K charity ride that we do every year.
It's been absolutely incredible. I mean, I've been in Japan now just for 2 years, and a big part of the reason I came to Japan in the first place from Hong Kong was to do as much cycling as I can and to see as much of this amazing country on my bike. I'm now at day 480 kilometers in, and I've got about 30 kilometers to get home to push me over the 500 kilometer mark. So it's been incredible.
I've been riding for the last 10 years or so. So from that part, it was definitely something I wanted to get involved in. But obviously the opportunity to support such a good cause was something I didn't want to miss. So really proud to be involved. With ISG, I mean, what we believe in is hospitality for good, right? And hospitality is a wonderful way of building communities and bringing people together. So yeah, we're very proud to be involved, and we will continue to be involved and support this very good cause.
2020年の8月にナイト・イン・ホワイト・レイクラの存在をまず私は知りました。500キロっていうライドは私も挑戦したことがないので、少し怖い気持ちっていうのは正直あります。だけど挑戦するっていうことに関してはものすごくワクワクした気持ちの方が大きいので、楽しみにしてるっていう気持ちが大きいですかね。
この500キロのライドに挑戦するために自転車を初めて買ってで乗り始めました。ちょっと緊張しているけど、なんだろう、今までやったことないことに挑戦するのはいつもすごい楽しいと思います。
Southernmost point of Honshu, which is Cape Shiono something. Shionomisaki, there we go.
I was a total newbie to the cycling community. I actually, to be perfectly honest, I didn't even own a bike, and I hadn't sat on a bike for about 10 years when I joined, but I was, welcomed with open arms. There was so much support from the veteran riders. It was amazing to meet so many like-minded individuals from such a diverse background of nationalities and lifestyles and careers, and we all just are united by that same desire to do some good. So it's been a really fulfilling and wonderful experience. I'm so happy I joined.
Nothing more important than people doing what they're passionate about and at the same time being able to give back.
みんなすごいフレンドリーでいろんな国籍の人がいたりとか初めての人もすごく上手な人とかもいて年齢もいろんな人がいるしでもみんなウェルカムな感じっていうかオープンな姿勢ですぐ仲良くなってくれてありがたいなって思ってます。
To anybody out there who's considering joining the Knights in White Lycra, please do it. You don't have to be a veteran cyclist. You don't even really need to know how to ride a bike. I might get in trouble for saying that, but I didn't really know how to ride one when I joined, and here I am 2 years later. It has been one of the most transformative, incredible experiences.
I think the beauty is whenever you can do something, not only in your everyday life, but also what you're passionate about, and at the same time be able to give back. This is the most ideal situation. And I think anybody who spends their free time cycling, they may as well be part of the group.
You, me, we,
Yes, I mean, all I would like to say to people is that if you have a desire to get fit and you have a desire to give back, the Knights in White Lycra is your solution. Whether that's cycling, running, walking, futsal, golf, even social nights like quiz nights at the pub. Everyone's welcome, all ages, all abilities, wherever you come from, whatever language you speak, you're very welcome in the Knights in White Lycra family. And we will be looking to continue to expand and provide more events for people to enjoy and to give to a good cause. Okay, I hope everybody managed to see that. Excellent. Okay, good stuff. What's that all about? Just one moment. Let's get rid of that, shall we? There we are. Sorry about that. Okay, can we proceed? Okay.
We're ready.
Okay, I'm just going to start sharing my slides now, if I may, everybody. So here we go. So you already know enough about Knights in White Lycra already. So I won't bore you too much with who we are and what we're doing, but I'll just add a little bit more to the video. So hidden assets is what Roger suggested we entitle this seminar this evening. I guess we'll find out what those hidden assets are over the course of the next 30, 40 minutes. I don't think my wife would agree I'm a hidden asset at all, actually, but anyway, let's see what that means. Some of these are the sponsors that we've managed to partner with in the last year or two. Some very big names, also some very small businesses that wanted to associate themselves with a good cause. So first of all, just a little bit about me. I came to Japan in 1999 with a financial services company, of which I'm now a partner. And so I've been here ever since. And unfortunately, my Japanese isn't as good as it should be by any stretch. And I was here on March the 11th, 2011, 3/11, March in 2011, I should say, when the tragedy hit in Tohoku. And it was a catalyst for me in many ways, because I felt that maybe the survivors were not being looked after as well as they should be. I also had a personal reason to get fit, because I'd stopped smoking and I wanted to do something that filled that space. So I bought a bike. And with those two things in mind, I felt I could do something good, not just by riding my bike to work every day, but to actually ride it a little bit further than that and have people sponsor me to do it. So I got a few of my British friends together. We were all sat in a pub one evening looking at our big beer bellies that were way, way too big at the time. And we decided that we should do something for a good cause. And what better to do than to try and raise money for the survivors of the tsunami that were still in a temporary accommodation a year later. So that's what we did. And, you know, out of tragedy can come positive things. And what you'll see in a minute is the Knights in White Lycra would never have been born, I think, without the 3/11 tragedy. And, you know, I think you'll see that something good has come out of that in one way or another. As a result of my efforts of pulling people together and forming teams to get fit and give back, the British Chamber of Commerce recognised my efforts with an award in 2015, and Princess Akiko gave me my award in 2019 at the Japan British Society annual award dinner. So I'm very proud of those things, but the most important thing is that we keep this engine ticking over, and because the needs of marginalised children don't just end from the end of one year to the next. Okay, if you don't like seeing middle-aged men wearing very, very tight specs, I suggest you look away over the course of the next few slides. I promise they're not too bad, but you have been warned and you cannot unsee this. All right, so who are we? I've already told you that really in the video. We're an international group of people, all ages and abilities, doing sporting events that aim to give back to the communities in which we live, particularly marginalized children who live in care homes throughout the country. And through the charities that we choose to support, the money we raise is then deployed by those charities for the benefit of those children. And, you know, I'm incredibly proud to say that 100 million yen has been raised since we started a year after the tsunami. So I think something positive has come out of that tragedy, because we may never have ever got this off the ground had it not happened. Okay, so again, I've told you a little bit about this. We started as a cycling group in 2013. 10 very rather overweight British men rode to Minami Soma to help with essential supplies. Then following that, we rode a little bit further in the following 2 years up to Minami Sanriku to support recovery programs going on there. And then we switched charities to one called Mirai no Mori, who some of you, I believe, might know from a previous lecture you've had. And we supported them for 3 years. And we were also very proud to introduce frame football to Japan for the first time ever for children that suffer from cerebral palsy. And we funded the purchase of the support trolleys that help them to play football, despite their obvious abilities. So we're very proud of what we've achieved. And just to give you a little bit of background, as I said, we were rather humble to start with. This was these pictures come from our first ever ride in 2013. You can see there in the bottom right-hand corner, we were barely 3 kilometers out of Nihonbashi when a salaryman decided he would join us. But we did manage to shake him off eventually, but he was very determined to keep up with us. And unfortunately, just before we got to Minami Soma, the area had a blizzard for the first time in 40 years. And to avoid the risk of hypothermia amongst our cyclists, we had to abandon it. And we came back a couple of months later to complete the ride and meet the people in the temporary accommodation. And it was such an emotional occasion because we'd done a cycle ride that none of us ever believed we could ever do. But secondly, we also, the gratitude we received from the people in that accommodation made us think, well, this shouldn't just be a one-off event. We should try and keep doing this every year. And so the ride, the annual cycle ride, has grown with each passing year to the point now where we can't take any more riders. It's become a critical mass now of a 50-person crew, 50-person team of cyclists and crew. And you'll see here that we change our jerseys every year. So we try to be as colorful as we can. And you'll see there that we started with 20 people in 2014, 42 people in 2015, and we basically kept it around 40 odd people every year since. The last 2 years have been a challenge for very, very obvious reasons. We had to cancel the annual ride in 2020 and 2021. So that was very unfortunate, but we still managed to pivot the Knights in White Lycra group to virtual events. So we had a virtual month of people cycling in their own time, in their own space, in their safe places, and asked them to achieve a certain distance and a certain amount of meters of elevation in a month. And many people managed to do that, and that raised further funds for our charity. And in 2021, we did a similar thing. Added to that, we did a virtual running event as well, which lasted a month, and people were asked to run a minimum of 55 kilometers in a month, which Mark Feely, I believe, can do in about 2 days. But there we go. We accept all ages and abilities. And we also decided that after the cycling became so successful, we realized that people wanted to get fit and give back, but not necessarily in cycling because it wasn't their sport. So we introduced running. We also introduced a very, very easy event, a walk or jog around the Imperial Palace. We introduced a golf day, a futsal tournament, and even a pub quiz. So even if you don't like any sport, you can come to our pub quiz, drink and eat as much as you like, and still give back. So we believe we have something for everybody. And talking of which, the Imperial Palace Walk is our next event, which will happen on April the 22nd and 23rd. And people are invited to spend just 1 hour running, walking around the palace. On Friday the 22nd, you choose any 1 hour from 3 p.m. to 9 p.m. or any 1 hour on Saturday from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. So it gives people every opportunity to come down to the palace, donate 5,000 yen, get yourself a bit of exercise, and at the end, we'll give you a lovely Knights in White Lycra t-shirt as a memento for your participation. So more on that another time. And as I said, we are all inclusive, all right? You can see here that we have some people that are clearly insane. The top left-hand and right-hand pictures will no doubt underline that. We accept even old people on mamacharis. All right, there's our Obasan in Fukushima that decided to join our ride for approximately 200 meters before she decided it was a bit too much for her. You know, we also accept people that are not very good at cycling, referring to the bottom right-hand photo there. Any age or ability or size are very welcome to give it a go. We also love to include diversity as well as inclusion. And so we always welcome ladies to join us. You know, the cycling is not something that is easy to do because it's 500 kilometers over 4 days. And so it is something that everyone needs to train for. But we would love it if we had more women joining us and representing Knights in White Lycra on our cycle ride. This year we have 7 or 8 girls this year, I think, that will join us, which is the best we've ever had. But there's still a lot of work to do yet on making it a more inclusive ride. Okay. So just telling a little bit about this year, we're going to take our ride from Tokyo up to Karuizawa, which on the first day, which is only 160 kilometers. And if any of you have ever been to Karuizawa, not on the train, you'll know that Karuizawa is on top of a mountain and you have to cycle up that mountain to get there. So it's not going to be easy. But on day 2, Karuizawa to Hakuba is relatively much easier. And then we will go from there to Toyama on the Sea of Japan coast. So we get a coast-to-coast theme to this ride, and then we will end it at Kanazawa, where we will hopefully meet some children in local care homes where we can engage them, interact with them, and explain a little bit about what we do for them as well. And one of the great advantages, apart from the fundraising, is not only do you get fit, but you also get to see parts of Japan that you might not see in a car or on a train. There's some beautiful, beautiful countryside in Japan. Yes, most of it is mountainous, so it's not all flat, and you do need to climb mountains on a bike, but it's so worth it. The views you get and the lovely descents from mountains, which are so enjoyable, it's all so worth it. We love this country for cycling. It's such a wonderful country for cycling. And at the end of the ride, it all comes home to roost. You know, you realize what you've done it for. You've achieved this great personal feat. It's something that you're personally proud of. But then you realize, goodness me, you know, we're meeting the children that we are raising the money for. These children range from, you know, 1 year old to 18 years old. These children are from broken homes, from abused homes, from poverty. And it really, really makes you very, very humble, and realize, you really, really realize what you're doing it for, and really makes you understand that what we do is important. We must also thank our sponsors. I have to go out each year and try and find companies to put their logos on our jersey. And also the riders, you know, they help very much with this process. The companies that they work for, they manage to get some of those companies to sponsor us. And it is a hard job, but it's a rewarding job. And every yen that they decide to sponsor us for goes directly to the charity that we support. So these companies range from large multinational companies like ANSYS, Land Rover, to small personal businesses run by individuals that wish to support the effort. And some of the sponsors are not even involved in the ride itself. So a lot of companies realize that this really resonates with their ESG philosophy, or CSR philosophy, however you want to term it, because it's encouraging employees to get fit, and it's encouraging employees to contribute to the communities that they live and work in. So there's no downside to this, no downside. So the people listening to this tonight, you may not be a cyclist yet, you may not be a runner yet, you may not be a golfer yet, but here's your chance. Here's your chance to get involved. All right, I've already explained we're going to have the walk in April. The cycle ride in June is already fully subscribed, so you'll have to give yourself 1 year to get ready for that. But in October, we will also do another cycling event over 1 month, where you can cycle in your own time, wherever you want, and achieve a minimum amount of kilometers in 1 month, under no pressure to ride with anybody at all. So look out for that. If any of you enjoy soccer, we've got the futsal event. In November, we'll have the running event as well. And part of that running event will also include a visit to a children's home with pandemic permitting, of course. And then in December, because it's Christmas, we all get together, we all have a drink, and we all do a lovely pub quiz, which, if you're British, you know what I'm talking about. If you're not British, come and find out what it's about. And also in December, we do a Santa ride. What does that mean? It means that we do a little 30, 40, 50 kilometer ride to a local children's home, dressed in our Santa uniform, to meet children in a local care home and give them Christmas presents. So that's a very lovely, rewarding day. And we get to see the children, and we get to see how the charity is educating them and how they're developing. So if any of those events appeal to you, please go to our website, www.kiwl.net. And there's a a link on that website where you can ask to be assigned up to a newsletter so that you get more information on these events. So that's all from me. I don't think we need to hear from me anymore. All we do as Knights of Wailaika is raise funds for charities in Japan. And now you're going to hear about how that money is deployed by those charities. And in particular tonight, the charity that we've been supporting for 3 years, Yumi We, and its founder, Michael Clemens, who is now going to take the floor from me. Over to you, Michael.
Thank you very much. Can everyone on Zoom see my screen? Yeah, no problems. Okay. So I'll take my mask off. I got permission from the professor. So thank you very much. It's nice to see people in person. I had lunch with a friend the other day. He said, so nice to see a human. I said, is that me? So yeah, it was very nice to be here tonight and hard act to follow behind Rob. Yumi, we feel are the 3 most important words in every language because everything starts with you, me, and we. And we, even though it's an NPO, we feel it's more of a social impact organization. And we call it the social impact of the 30,000. And so there's a few numbers I wanted to share with you tonight. Does anyone have any idea what the top number is, for example?
Student debt.
Close. I mean, some people, we rarely use the word quadrillion, and this is actually the Japanese national debt. It clicks at 400,000 yen a second in interest. What's the next number?
Student debt.
It's the population of Japan. 3 million.
Student debt again.
These are the number of children in Japan living under the poverty line. 309,178. What do you think that number is? It'd be hard to guess. It's the number of car accidents. Cases, which could be several children in the case. So if people are getting into car accidents who have licenses and we're making cars safer every year, the number is actually decreasing as far as fatalities involving car accidents. But the number of abuse cases in Japan are increasing. And it's a phenomenon because when you go back to the Showa era, there were not as many cases being reported, but it really wasn't until 91 that the law changed. That if you were aware of an abuse case that you had to report it, otherwise you get in trouble. So if the cases in 1991 went from 1,500 to now there's 205,000, not because the number of cases, only because the number of cases increased, but because the number of reportings increased, right? 33,000 is the number of kids living in the homes and orphanages. And 14,000 live in foster care. And they live in the orphanage, 600 orphanages throughout Japan, from Hokkaido all the way down to Nagasaki and Okinawa. So if you think about it, it's like 3 million children coming down a river from the mountain, and we've only been able to rescue 33,000 into the orphanages and 14,000 on the other side into foster care. These children would be dead if they weren't in the home. So that's the very dark part of my presentation. Is that the reality is that's true, but we don't want to focus on that. We always say, you know, no one asked to be born, but when you are born, you deserve everything that life has to offer. So with these kids who were born to maybe prisoners and had to be taken in from the hospital to a baby home, or were born, you know, and the families couldn't afford to raise them, or, you know, abuse where they're taken away and in fact, the parents have no idea where they are. And the kids, you know where they are, but you can hear different dialects, for example, when you're speaking to kids in Tokyo, because they've been taken from all over the country. So yeah, the children live in the homes from 2 to 18, and the Human Rights Watch wishes that it was the other way around, that we had more kids in foster care and less in orphanages, but culturally, it's just not that situation. adoption is also extremely rare. I mean, people come up to me and say, I want to adopt kids. And I said, well, go to your ward office and start talking to people. So, you can't just talk about it at cocktail parties. You have to actually do it. It is possible, but it's difficult. But, if you really want to do it, it's possible. So, speaking, to a young audience, the reason I want to put these numbers out there is because this is the national debt that you guys are facing, not to depress you, but it's a real number. And in a country where we have more people over 65 per capita in the world and less under 15 per capita in the world, the hidden assets are the children in the homes that are marginalized and have always been called the throwaway children. They're the hidden assets because we need everybody, whether they're over 60 or whether they're orphans who, are coming out of high school and needing, job experience or skills, etc., to be firing on all cylinders because robots don't pay taxes. And as much as we'd like to robotize everything, the truth is it's a very expensive infrastructure we live in, especially in Tokyo. And so I think, this is really the premise of Yumi. So, I came here in 1989. I hate to say that because it was so long ago. It seems like yesterday. And when I came here, it was the bubble, so it was euphoric, and I rarely use that word. And when I finished university in San Francisco, my first job was in Japan, and I joked that the bubble popped on the airplane on the way over because it's never been the same as it was in the bubble. But I was fortunate to be in banking, when I was in Japan. And in 2007, someone asked me to play Santa Claus, believe it or not. And I walked into a home in Hiro that was gifted by, I think, the current emperor's grandfather to them. So it's an imperial gift. So most people think, what is an orphanage doing in Hiro? That's pretty nice property. But when I walked into the home, I couldn't help but notice a lot of the kids were not 100% Japanese. And I hoped at that point that was not the reason that they were in the home. But the reality is the reasons the kids are in their home are vast. There's not just one reason. But the truth is there are a lot of multicultural kids in the homes. And, there's parents that, like I said, they can't afford to raise the kids or abuse reasons, etc. But you also have to keep in mind that for the parents that, just can't economically afford their kids, they still are able to see them. And so there's this kind of politics inside the home of the kids who have nobody, and then the kids who have parents that will see them and maybe bring them a Switch or maybe bring them something from Disneyland, and then the other kids have nothing. And so then people contact us at Yumi and say, could you send us some Switches? And normally I'm like, that's not really what we're supposed to be doing, but I do it because I want to help them even out the playing field for the kids so they don't feel so bad. But, coming to Japan in 1989 means I didn't have a laptop and I didn't have an iPhone. And so, kids born today will live to the 22nd century. I think any Japanese kid born today will live on average to 107. And so what could I possibly as a parent be teaching my kids that they're going to use in the 22nd century? Because the technology the kids are going to be using and you're going to be using in your careers hasn't been invented yet. The jobs that you should be going for, I mean, I was in banking, all of my execution traders are replaced by algorithms. They don't have jobs anymore. So you can't really tell people you should do this job. I think communication and collaboration and being creative with an emphasis on create are the three things that will never change over time. And so this is what we're trying to do by making sure the kids have access to the internet, because we live in an information society now. I mean, someone owns this podium. I don't own this podium, but you all own the information that is out there. What's stopping us is the fact that I think it was, frankly, Facebook who exposed how many people actually have access to the internet. And when it capped out at like 2 billion, they started coming up with different plans, like, the Loon project with Google to extend Wi-Fi. Facebook had internet.org, which didn't seem to work. So they're working with other people. But I think, having this access to information is hand in hand with so many different things, whether it's curing the poverty situation or helping people in rural areas get access to information. When I first started in this space, there was only 5% of the homes that had access to Wi-Fi. That has since improved a lot, especially with Corona, frankly. That kids were coming to university, for example, that got out of the homes and then sent home. And then they're like, how am I going to attend class? I don't have a laptop. I don't have Wi-Fi. So we were shipping out laptops to university students so they wouldn't be left behind. And college student, I don't know all of you, individually. I see some familiar faces, but if your laptop blew up and you didn't have your family's help, or you didn't have savings, or you didn't have a way to replace it, what would you do? And the reality is, when these kids leave the home at 18, they have no one. So, in this society, when you need people to ink on your rental agreement, and you need people to vouch for you, for jobs, etc., most of us can leave our homes with a great network amongst our families and friends that we can rely on. These kids have nothing. And I don't want to overemphasize that, because I also don't want you to feel sorry for these kids, because the reality is these kids are getting on with it. They don't think of themselves as the son of so-and-so or the daughter of so-and-so. They just look at themselves as individuals who are now in a safe environment. And in that safe environment, we try to, expose them to different things at a young age to get them interested. Because, I personally learned a new term, learned helplessness, which seems to be something that they're unfortunately suffering from, because they figure, well, why bother? Because if I make the efforts to figure out how to take the steps to have a better life, and if I fail and I become homeless, I don't even want to start. And so it's a very challenging, situation to be in. When we first started in this space in 2007, only 9% of the kids went on to university. This says 16%, but I had someone check and it's now closer to 30–40%. So out of all the kids that we support in the homes that we are in contact with, and we do email all 600 homes every month, but we really have kind of face-to-face or personal relationships with about 30 homes. And there's on average 50 kids in each home. So there's about 1,500 kids that, that are inside the homes that we're supporting. Last year, 50% went off to university. 48% had jobs lined up. And then there was maybe 2% of maybe special needs kids that they think that we can't help, but we can. We have other companies that are interested in offering opportunities. Knights in White Lycra, we were introduced in probably later 2017, and then they started sponsoring us in 2018. So through a lot of the companies that we've been introduced to as not only sponsors, we've had people, for example, BMW, that said we're more than happy to hire kids into the homes. On the video, Knights in White Lycra, the president of Intercontinental Hotels, he said, we can take the kids without a college education, we'll train them. And so I think, it raises an interesting question. If there's like 1,600 kids turning 18 every year, and how are they connecting with businesses that are looking for the hidden assets who are fluent in Japanese? How do the kids find the opportunities from the companies for people that are looking for kids that have grown up in a structured environment, but also empathy, because they've been around other kids that have different stories, and they've been around kids that have special needs, etc. So I think the reality is, the sooner you can get into the homes and build these relationships with the kids, and I've seen some of them grow up from 3. One of the kids, and I shouldn't call them kids. First of all, we don't call them orphans anymore, we call them champions. and we don't call them kids once they turn 18, we call them ambassadors, because we feel like they're kind of letting people know about the things that they've learned with us. And one of the young boys just turned 20, and he got a job with a huge IT company right out of vocational school, making a pretty good salary, if I don't say so. And so it's nice, because one of the things that dawned on me in this space is I've been working with that young man since he was 14, because he would always look over his shoulder when we would go into the home to teach other kids. And then I found out he built his own computer from scratch. And I thought, this is extraordinary. So then when he wanted to do something else, we tried to support it. And so we're always looking for, like, who are the tech leads in the home that we can support? And so, but the other thing that dawned on me is at that point, we were dealing with him and the staff in the homes. When he turned 18 to 20, I was dealing with different people that were looking after him until he was an adult. Now he's an adult. So the reality is Yumi Wee has been kind of the only consistency he's had in his life, because all of those staff are no longer involved with his life. The staff that saw him, I'm sure they can keep in touch, but I mean, the reality is we have a unique opportunity to be that consistency in the kids' lives. I mean, there's some people literally who could write a check and give everybody a MacBook Pro, right? But this is not really what the kids want and need. What they need is adults that come in and spend one-on-one time with the kids and make them feel like their lives matter. And that's what they remember when they go away. And I'm talking to the kids who are now 35, who we knew when they were 18 when we started, or the people who are now 45 and didn't really get any skill set training, and now they're competing in a market that really requires a lot of the stuff that we're offering. And so the initial challenge was, let's give everybody their own device. And so I mean, that would be like 33,000 tablets, 33,000 computers. And we tried as best as we could to go out there. And it was really from donations that had come in after 3/11. So not Yumi, but a previous MPO that I was a donor and also a director of. And it was mainly focused on Tohoku. And so half of the money went to like getting radiated soil off the grounds and re-irrigating, the rain that would come down, etc. But then I had quite a bit left over. So then we decided, let's start the digital citizenship program where, we're all digital citizens now. And so we basically bought 350 brand new computers and sent them up to Tohoku, replaced the computers of the staff who were still using like monochrome displays. And then at that time, we started focusing on Microsoft Word and Excel and PowerPoint, and then the kids were getting certified in it. So when we go into the BMW interviews and the HR manager sees that they've got certification in Excel, he said, I don't even think anyone in finance has certification in Excel. So even at 18, they're able to show something extraordinary on their CV. And then, so now, sorry, this is also bilingual for some benefits. So originally, we had installed 600 computers across Tohoku and Tokyo, giving over 720 kids at that time access to Wi-Fi. I would say now this number has grown to over 1,000 computers which are in the field. So companies like Airbnb will give me 70 MacBooks. Some companies, call and they've upgraded at the investment banks. The traders have upgraded, and the traders use really high spec computers because they need that latency for the trading, etc. So we're able to take really high spec desktops into kids' homes who want to do anime, and then they need that memory and they need that speed, and so they're really getting extraordinary equipment. And then again, we're not just looking at Microsoft Word, Excel, and PowerPoint, but we're also looking at introducing coding at a young age. We also, to contradict me about the laptops, we do Ichigo Jam, which is a $15 motherboard, $15 keyboard, and $15 monitor. So we're like, for $45, you have a computer that you can code with. You don't need to wait till you have a fancy laptop. And so the beauty is the kids can walk into class late and they can just sit down and immediately start typing the code. And then they unplug something and plug it into a robot. The robot goes across the room. And so they're able, to see how quickly they're able to create something this way. We have really kind of designed Yumi to be focused on junior high and above. We feel like we're doing financial literacy training, for example, if they understand how much it really costs to live on their own once they turn 18. There's a program called Money Connection that we're certified to give. And we sit them down with the worksheet and like, how much do you think it costs to live? So these kids have only paid their mobile phone bill. They have no idea what it costs. And when they see it's probably around 200,000 yen, we immediately ask, well, what kind of jobs do you think you could do to earn 200? If you want to earn 400, what kind of jobs do you think you can do? So then they do an online career assessment test. And you hear them for the first time saying, hey, this says I could be a teacher. Or, hey, this says I could be a banker. So you're hearing them for the first time realizing that they have potential to do something they've never thought about before. So immediately we kind of hit it while it's hot and say, okay, so what kind of skill sets do you think you need to be a banker? What kind of skill sets do you think you need to be a teacher? And then we try to create SMART goals with them. And this is where the mentors come in. And the mentors try to work with them because I've seen the kids when they come out of the homes, and I realize, the candle's burning at both ends. The confidence is not necessarily there. The hygiene in some cases is not necessarily there. And so I think the sooner that we can build those relationships with the kids and the trust with the kids, the better. And then we're able to help them do their resumes. We're able to help them do presentations about themselves and have the confidence in doing that. We can help them, come visit your university, for example, where they've never had the opportunity to do that. In some cases, we go to boardrooms at Morgan Stanley and they're in the middle of downtown at an investment bank. So in some cases, they really get extraordinary opportunities. But more importantly, we want them to be striving for whatever it is that they're dreaming to do. Let me see. So yeah, I should have been clicking this while I was talking. So the career assessments are online, like I said, so it's an immediate report that they get. And it tells them not only what kind of jobs they could be doing, but also points out what kind of degree they should pursue if they wanted to go to school. So then we start looking at that as well, because we keep telling everybody, if you want to go to school, you need to go. There's nothing stopping you. And so there's companies that I just want to mention because they don't really talk about it much. Like Big Camera gives kids apartments for free from the time they're 18, as long as they're in university, they're employed. So the first kind of 5 to 6 years of their life, they get an apartment for free. So it's helping them save their money, get comfortable, get skills, get their degrees. So they don't have to worry about it. You never hear Big Camera, in my opinion, talking about that. And they do that a lot. And so more and more, there's money available for the kids to pursue higher education. So we just want to make sure that they understand that and focus on that. We also are thinking about the future. Like what is it about Japan's challenges that these kids can be answering? And so the fact that we have less kids under 15 per capita in the world, the fact that Japan has so much to export by way of innovation or technology to other countries, etc. The use of technology to make your lives easier, to help you, by use of IoT, etc. Like Asimo, the robot, was really designed to turn old people in bed so they don't get bed sores, but it looks like a cute robot that just serves tea. But a lot of these robots have real reasons that they were being designed. And so, that can be important. And I think, the elderly in Japan, some lived to 115. So they were here before radio. They were here before television. They were here. And they don't want to be sitting in the corner when everyone's TikToking and tweeting and Facebooking people. So they want to be part of the conversation that's going on. So we have working on a program to connect with the elderly and teach them how to use IoT so they can turn their heater on with their smartphone before they get home from the station, or how they can turn the aircon on and off from bed by using their smartphone, or turn the lights on and off, etc. And so we think that that's a good way, to introduce them to technology in a fun way. But the other reality is, I think when you guys graduate from school, I'm not sure that you should be working, at the convenience stores, etc. I don't think you should be working at a lot of the jobs that we need to have people working in. And I think that you guys are in a sweet spot, because probably for the first time, people graduating university can choose where they want to go to school rather than being worried about getting a job. And so I think 99 or 98% of the freshmen were hired last year. And so, that's good, but I think you obviously have to be thinking, where do I really want to work? And what do I really want to be doing? And while that happens, the reality is we need to be recruiting people to come into the country to do a lot of jobs. And so one of the things that our kids should and could be able to do is teach Japanese online to people who want to become nurses, for example. I think we need 1 million nurses in Japan to take care of all the elderly. And so I think there's ways that, through we and the stuff that we're trying to teach the kids, they can apply it. So it's actually not just helping them, but they're helping the country and a lot of the plights that the country is dealing with. We feel like this is what makes it the social impact organization as opposed to a charity. We don't feel that we are giving them anything. We're sharing with them things and hopefully teaching them how to share. After high school, even though they're in the, I don't want to call it halfway house, but they literally live in a house from 18 to 20 until they're adults, we sometimes hire those kids to come work with us. So they work with us part-time and then they go back and train the kids in the home. and then they're still going to university, so it's kind of their part-time job. And many of the kids say to us, and I can tell when they're eating the free rice crackers too much. They say, we only eat once a day. I said, why is that? It's because we don't have enough money. So even though they're living on their own, sometimes they're not budgeting very well and they're literally eating once a day. And so last Saturday, we started a collaboration between Second Harvest and another NPO called Legacy Japan Foundation. And we picked up 15 kilos per kid of groceries and brought them to a central location and made them come and get them so that they can supplement, whatever they have at home or for food. And Second Harvest, I never knew about Second Harvest. I think it's a new NPO, because when I was first in Japan, there's no internet, and I didn't know about Golden Week, and I didn't know the banks closed in those days. So I ate peanut butter and crackers for 5 days in a row. So when I see these people lining up, for Second Harvest, I'm like, wow, these people really switched on. And there should be in line for this food because it's an asset of the community. And then there's the next step where the kids say, well, look, even if you give me food, I can't cook it because I don't have pots and pans, and I don't have knives and forks, and I don't have cups and plates. And so then I realized, I need to go deeper because the reality is they don't. So they're kind of in that convenience store cycle where they're just buying stuff and throwing it away. It's more expensive, etc. So that's part of this new collaboration. We're going to be teaching kids how to cook. We're going to be teaching them how to shop because Daiso isn't necessarily the cheapest option. We're going to be teaching them, providing pots and pans if they need it, etc. But more importantly, I find that some of the kids come to see us because they just don't want to be home alone. They want to hang out with us, so they do their homework with us, or they are learning further skills or working with coaches to learn more about themselves. They're teaching kids that are back in the homes that they remember being. How are we for time? Are we okay? Yeah, good. Okay. So the ICT for elderly is not only it's not so much the elderly, but the children of elderly who feel guilty because they haven't taught mom and dad how to use the smartphone, or they feel guilty because they don't go back to visit very often to teach them how to use Zoom, for example. And so the idea here is to work with people who have elderly parents, etc., and then do online courses to teach them how to order a taxi online or how to order food, etc., online, etc. So one of our first volunteers, her name is Ma-chan, and she's 86, and she's the oldest programmer in the world. And so she works with us a lot. And she was 60 when she retired because she had to, and her mother was 90. And so she's thinking, well, geez, I may have another 30 years to go. What am I going to do? So she bought a computer because it said if you buy a computer, you can talk to anyone in the world. And so I met Ma-chan when she's 79, and now all these years later, she's constantly flying around. She's going to programmer events. She's made her own app. And so she encourages the kids when she comes to visit them. She said, you may know this much about coding and you need to know this much. Find someone who can teach you that difference. Find somebody who can help you, get to that goal. Don't just give up. And the other thing that we're working on is what we call Oba-chan in the cloud, because we think there's plenty of old people who don't think anyone's interested in what they have to say, but they have an enormous amount of experience. And we feel that by interviewing them and recording their life stories, it's also a very good skill set for the kids to learn how to interview, how to edit video, how to upload it. And so this is another project that we're working on. So where are we? So as I mentioned, many kids in the home are multicultural. So we've started a collaboration in the Philippines, and we also started a collaboration in Ghana. And the reason for Ghana is because the teacher was teaching children who'd never seen a computer, and they had no idea what Microsoft Word was. And he drew it on a chalkboard. He said, this is bold, this is underlined, this is italic. And so he didn't want the kids to wonder, what Microsoft Word was. And that picture went viral. And, HP flew in and Microsoft flew in, and everyone gave them computers. And when I friended him on Facebook, I said, can you use our English software? Because we have a lot of kids that, we're not an English language MPO, but a lot of our kids maybe spoke English in the beginning and now they're losing it, or they want to learn English. So we have this software that we use called Night Zookeeper. He said, well, we don't have Wi-Fi. So we've got all these brand new computers and we don't have Wi-Fi. So we've been helping with his Wi-Fi since the beginning. And we went and spoke to the ambassador of Ghana to Japan to let them know what we're doing. Now the kids are making games from scratch. So these are kids that are children of farmers like me. And basically now they're waiting to be let into the classroom because they've learned how to do things from scratch. I mean, I don't know about you all, but some people never work on a project from beginning to end. Some people never create anything. And so they're really having fun. And then those games are being exported to Japan, and then the kids in Japan are playing them. And so we're trying to create this kind of a common language amongst the coding. But, you know, like I said, I think if we can teach Japanese online and we can be connected with people that want to come to Japan, we can backfill a lot of agriculture jobs that we need people to be helping with, nurses where we need people helping with, construction where we need people to be helping, etc. So we feel like this is again, you know, having an impact. This is a little bit about the Night Zookeeper class writer. It's basically the kids go in and they are challenged to write, and then they get orbs, they get points for writing. And this goes anywhere from elementary school all the way up to high school writers. Some of the kids were published in a high school publication, so they published their writing. We had to teach about plagiarism because some kids just copied and pasted stories and submitted it. And so we said, you know, as digital citizens, this is good. So let's use this as a learning environment. I mentioned Oba-chan in the cloud. So we had a celebrity that interviewed her 90-year-old mother, and she asked her, you know, what's your secret for life? And you know, she's reflecting on that. She's like, you know, you just always have to be, you know, passionate, you know, about what you do, and then you don't have to worry about it. So this is kind of the framework that we try to follow. So we feel not every kid wants to go to university, but they should at least be employable when they finish with our program. And so Corona and COVID has been a huge challenge for us because the staff are very stressed out. Needless to say, they're also the essential workers in the homes, because if they didn't come to work, these kids wouldn't eat. So, I mean, the reality is they also are stressed out because they're concerned about taking care of the kids, etc. So we did a lot of like mental health seminars for the staff, and we're trying to get them more engaged, etc. But this is basically the structure that we use. And so we're happy to see some of the kids, or a lot of the kids that are moving on to university. But then, you know, even when they get out, they're still going to maybe need help finding jobs, like maybe some of you will. And so we want to continue to be there for them when they're looking. This is, you know, just kind of reiteration of what I talked about before. And today, you know, of course, we're always looking for volunteers. The reality is, you know, today's message, I think, is really just for you guys to be thinking about how these kids end up in the homes, right? And, you know, for example, 1/3 are happy where they are on average. 1/3 don't feel they have a voice, so they're not going to tell you whether they're happy in the homes or not. And then there's 1/3 that like to be reunited with their families. And so when I learned that, I realized UME is focusing on 1/3 of the kids, but we're kind of neglecting 2/3 of the kids. And so currently we're working with university interns from America who are doing a white paper on children's rights in Japan. And then we're also trying to structure a social impact bond so that we can, it costs $1 million to have the kids in care from 2 to 18 for the Japanese government. And so you can, I didn't do that number tonight, but if you did that times 30,000 kids, it gives you an idea how much money. So with the social impact bond, we're basically working with a group in Nagoya that does abusive parent training. So helps the parents get retrained if they've had the kids taken away, to get the kids reunited with them, or preventative parenting, for lack of a better word. I'm sure there's a better word for it. But basically, you know, if people are needing a license to drive a car, you know, when people are getting married and looking to start families, maybe they should be taking the same test that these parents are taking. And maybe you should be looking at where you might need to work on that problem if it shows up in the tests, so that it doesn't become a problem. Even in my own house, I have twin daughters, and it's total mayhem in the morning. They're always fighting. They're never ready on time. They're not dressed. And when I went to the training, I didn't go to the training, but I went to the training seminar. She said, well, why don't you just get the clothes ready the night before? I was like, yeah, exactly. Why don't we do that? And so, I mean, even I'm benefiting from this. But I think, you know, as you become parents, or, you know, you get into relationships or build your own families, etc., I think that it's good to be conscious of the fact that, you know, some kids are taken away from the families. And so I think, you know, as young people, it's important to just kind of be aware of the situation and what's going on, because I think things are changing as far as how the kids are viewing themselves. But that, like I said, they've always been seen as the throwaway children, and we would like them not to feel that way. So as young as possible, we want them to feel like they're the hidden assets, that they need to be encouraged as much as possible, because we need them. You know, we need as many people as possible to be working in Japan as we go forward into the future. And but you are welcome to volunteer if you want. and so the way our structure works is we have like a Tohoku area manager, we have a Kanto area manager, we have a Chubu area manager. And because I can't possibly contact everybody anymore. It used to be just me, but now we can't. And so the area managers then talks to the home coordinator. So the home coordinator has the relationship with the home, so they know all the politics and all the things that are going on. And then what ideally we'd like is for 6 dedicated volunteers per home, because then the kids get used to the volunteers, the trust builds up. And, you know, I'm not saying to be there from the 3 to 18, but the reality is you get much more of a nice experience when you're volunteering if you know the kids and the kids know you. And, or teach a skill. You know, we're having people teach stuff and just record it on YouTube, and then we put it in our library so anybody can see it, and we send it out to the 600 homes for them to be able to access that as kind of a library of skills. And this is a quote by Jerry Lewis, who was a comedian. I'm not sure if everyone remembers Jerry Lewis. But he said, you know, 100 years from now, no one will care how much money I had or how big my house was. But if you can help one child today, that can last for generations. And I truly feel that's very true. And I think it's extraordinary how you can just simply pay attention to someone and make them feel like their life matters. And then that starts kind of growing. And then they remember that. And so that's kind of that whole culture of them wanting to give back then. And we're seeing that. So we're very fortunate that way. It looks like I'm losing power. And I'm also wanted to show you a video as well. Any questions, though, or are we at the time for questions? Okay. Yeah. I'm used to these things. Used to these emergencies. One moment. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing while I find the video. But any questions while I'm looking for this video that I'd like to show you? Many questions? How often would a dedicated volunteer I think it depends on you, because there's some people, for example, who are happy coming once a week, and so that's possible. There's some people that really don't feel they can commit past maybe twice a month, and then that would be good to come for the food collaboration. Some people maybe once a month, and so then I think it's good to be a mentor. But I always profess that we should have 3 mentors per child, because often I find that one mentor comes on board and they want to help this kid, and then they realize how difficult it is and they disappear. And I think that's damaging, you know, for the kid. And so I think 3 volunteers as mentors per one child. And then even if you don't speak Japanese, for example, you can have other people in kind of your group that will help you. I always say, you know, of course, we need money to do what we're doing, but we're really looking for skill set. We're looking for experience, and we're looking for people who are willing to give their time. And I think that is really what it comes back to. But I really do feel, you know, if you find the right place to volunteer, that you just feel pulled to come back. Sometimes I can't believe, you know, that that, you know, we go weekly, for example, you know, to St. Francis. Recently, we couldn't go because it's because of COVID restrictions, but we go weekly. And so, you know, they're like our kids because we see them every week. And so it depends is the answer to the question. So I wouldn't feel obliged to you know, overcommit yourself, but yeah, I think, you know, and that's why we take a little bit of a time, to be frank, in onboarding volunteers, because we realize that some people, well, I think everybody does it for very personal reasons. And if that reason is, you know, not to really hang around very long, then we probably wouldn't want them to be like in a situation where, you know, those kids are going to be affected, etc. Okay, so I think, yeah, this is the video I want to show you. Oh, I have to help the people on Zoom see this. Here we are. Rob, you can see the screen?
Yes, thanks, Michael. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. about that.
How did you know that's my favorite song? So I'm gonna jump into the frame here. So thank you very much, Robert and Michael, for a fantastic and enlightening lecture. So if anybody has any questions, if you're on Zoom, I guess all you can do is just turn on your camera and turn on your mic and go ahead and ask. And if you're here in the 6th floor conference room, then raise your hand and I'll pass over the microphone so that everybody on Zoom can hear your question too. Not Skashi.
How can I sign up for the volunteer?
You can go to our website, which I'll give you my card, but you can sign up directly on the website. And you could also send an email to volunteers@yumiwempo.org. Yeah.
Thank you.
This is big. Michael, can you? Yes, I was about to ask you to do that, to share the website with everybody. If there's any questions out there on Zoom, don't be afraid.
Mine is not a question so much as just a comment that it's very impressive, the breadth of the things that you are covering. It just seems like you do whatever needs to be done. Very impressive.
Thank you very much.